My name is James William Taylor, and my twin brother, Robert Edward Taylor. The Marshall family first had the business in 1770. They were maltsters and seedsmen, and before the days of the railway came, the seeds used to come from Bedfordshire up by barge, up into the creek. In 1830, our great-great-grandfather John Taylor, who was born in East Harling, he had a nursery at Wigan Hall, St Germans, and he came to work for the Marshall family for 3 years as an apprentice. They liked his work and took him on, and then he took the business over in, I think it's either 1846, Dad told us, but someone else has researched the history and probably got the date at 1849. And then, because the Marshall family had no heirs to carry the business on, and he took it over, and then it was in our hands for 152 years without being taken over in 4 generations. We both started to work for Father. Our first day of working for him was January the 9th, 1969, and our wages were 30 shillings a week. Dad was the main one for doing all the bookkeeping and looking after the shop generally. My job was to serve customers, unload the stuff from Gibbs Palmer's lorries into the warehouse for taking the stock in, and also keeping an account of what we had. And then in the October time, we used to go to garden trade shows at Norwich and then give the big companies what we needed, and I was doing the stock taking on that side. Well, Bob's job was he served the customers and he packeted the seeds through the 2 seed machines. These were probably come from Germany about 1845. There were 2 of them. I do have a picture of them. One was a big hopper type. You poured the seeds into the top, and then you had a screw on the barrel for adjustments for the different sides of seeds, and then you turn the handle backwards and forwards, and then that would and then that would put the amount of seed into the seed packet. The thing being used so many times, it got worn, and when you adjusted it, the adjuster kept moving, so it kept altering. So my great-great-grandfather suddenly had an idea. He got hold of a door spring, and then he got the part of the door spring to hold against the metal of the adjuster, and then that cured the problem of it kept it the same, and it didn't move anymore. And he screwed where the top of the door hinges. He put a screw into the brass metal work, and that held it, and we didn't have any further trouble. When we first worked for Dad, we had Bridget Smith work for us occasionally. Sandra Smith, her sister, was with us, and Jennifer as well. And then in 1970, they both left the shop, and then from then onwards till 1982, it was run between my father, Robert Taylor, and ourselves. We ran it between us. We stayed with until Dad decided to retire from the shop at end of June 1982, and then the shop was sold due to Father's retirement. Shops of our line, we sold a lot of seeds which we packed ourselves. They came over from Enkhuizen in Holland, from a firm called Royal Sluice. That's Royal Sluis. They supplied us for over 100 years. We sold a whole range of seeds for farmers. We used to sell bird seeds for people who kept birds and things. A big range of flower seeds. We sold grass seed as well in bulk. The grass seed was The first one was a bowling green mixture for bowling greens, known as number 1. Number 2 was for front lawns, would stand a reasonable amount of hardware. And number 3 didn't have any ryegrass in, but it had a poa pratensis in place of ryegrass to give a really hardware for playing football or anything on. The mixtures for number 1 was 80% chewing fescue, 25% brown top. I can't remember number 2, but that was creeping red fescue and brown top. And number 3 was creeping red fescue, poa pratensis, and I think a small amount of brown top into there, but I can't remember the mixings offhand.
And did you sell vegetable seeds?
Yes, we used to sell them in bulk. We used to sell them in half ounces and ounces, as well as below the half ounce weight. We had 2 little, when they didn't go through the machines and anyone wanted a set weight of them with a half ounce or ounce, we had a where you could pour the seeds in, and the adjustment was on the side. You could slide it down this little groove, and that would go from half ounce to an ounce. So if they wanted them in bulk, that's how we did that. Yes, some people used to buy onion seed, whiteness, and say by the pound for obviously growing commercially. We supplied farmers for commercially, as well as the ordinary gardeners for their small gardens as well. The one thing I will say that in 1969 we sold 1.5 tons of seed potatoes. Was it 30 tons? 30 tons, sorry, that one. 30 tons of seed potatoes. That's the last year we had them because the factory acts came in and Dad had to heat the warehouse after that, and we couldn't store them in the heat. So after 1969, we didn't sell any more seed potatoes. We thought that would hurt our trade with the customers. It made no difference. They did accept what happened, and they went elsewhere to buy seed potatoes, and we still carried on trading. I remember Dad telling us in 1935, on a busy Tuesday when the farmers used to come in, we used to sell 1 ton of mango seed in a day. Yes, so we used to sell, was it 8,000 packets of hollow crown parsnip?
Yeah, and from beetroot.
Beetroot, we had big sales in the days. When we came in 1969, I think we sold probably about 300 packets of beetroot, but in the olden days there was much more. And Dad, he said to us that we'll never know the total, but the seed machines between them packet up millions of packets of seeds between them over the years. We were well known. We had a high reputation in the town of being a good, reliable shop. And I can remember one customer, they bought some hyacinths off us. They were so pleased with them. When they measured the flowers on them, they were 15 inches high on the whole 3 of them. And they came back and said, well, thank you very much. We're very pleased with them. They said they measured them. The heyday was in the Victorian times and early up to Dad had a proper seed training in 1932 at Perkins Seed People in Northamptonshire, and he came for 3 years, and then he came to work in the shop in 1935. And I think between the Victorian times and that is when the shop's heyday, shops like us were really doing well. There were several other shops. There were Townsend's and several other shops that sold seeds in the town, but we survived the longest when the garden centres came in the 1950s. Shops like us started to disappear, but we carried on because we gave more seeds in our packets. The customers found it good value for money, and that's partly why we survived against some of the garden centres for a good while. when Bob and I were there, I had the Duke and Duchess of Kent come right up to me, and then when they came in, I had to go and tell Dad discreetly they were in the shop because he was working in the office, and then he'd come and serve. But I remember Dad, when we first saw her, she didn't come in, but she was looking at some of the bulbs, hyacinth bulbs. It was in the autumn time, which we put in pots for Christmas presents. We suddenly looked up and saw her looking in the window at them. And then it wasn't too long after that, they used to come in the shop and started to do business with them. Well, I remember at Dad's funeral, they said that the King of Norway was one of our good customers, obviously the royal family. The Earl Spencer, Lady Diana's father, he came in because when they were living at Park House, they were customers. I remember Dad saying that. I don't know anyone else offhand, but when we look at the shop ledgers, we found some of 1897. We used to supply many halls around the county. One was at Rougham, and their seed order came to 17 shillings, 9 and 6. One of it, the customers used to make when they used to come in through the door was a lovely aroma, smell of seeds and things, which we could smell when we'd been away for a few days. But as we worked there, we all got immune to it, and when you went in, you couldn't really smell it much. But when the customers came, they said, what a lovely smell in here. Also, Dad had a lot of seed riddles and things, because occasionally we had a few accidents where some seeds got mixed in with another one. So he used to go to these riddles and things, and then where the seeds had been accidentally mixed, and put them through these big sieves, and small ones, and that was sorted out, and then you could get the seed back. Our coloured seed pockets were printed in Bristol, in Liverpool, from Blake and Mackenzie for many years, and then they were compulsory purchased in 1966 to widen the road. They never opened up again, and after then we had our seed pockets from ESA Robinson from Bristol. We enjoyed working in the shop. It was always fascinating because it was never a trade which just did one thing at a time. As the spring, summertime, autumn and winter came, with the different parts of the seasons, things altered, and it's always looking forward to each season because you knew what was coming. My favourite job was being the warehouseman. I had a grey warehouse jacket, and I used to love unloading off the lorries and putting the stock away and enjoying warehouse work.
I did have something funny in the shop. One customer come in, can I have a packet of them prawn and marrows? That made Dad laugh, you know that thing. I used to have a great time in the shop. I used to enjoy it. I enjoyed working there. I used to enjoy working with the machines. And Bob blinked out of the pocket of his tongue, but I never got dry. I think that was another one. I used to make cups of tea in the shop for Dad, buying cakes and things sometimes and tea. I enjoyed being there. It was lovely. Nice customers. A very interesting shop upstairs. There's an old piano with a scroll of leaves on it. That was there a long time. A picture on the wall, the one of the Taylor family. Actually, I've been a bird's nest. You can get bird's nests in swallow's nests.
We should get swallow. There's a gap in the warehouse. For about 4 years running, we had a pair of swallows used to pay us a